So if you're watching this video, you've probably recently received a diagnosis of borderline personality disorder, or maybe you have a loved one who's gotten that diagnosis. And you're probably having lots and lots and lots of feelings about this. You might feel overwhelmed, angry, confused, ashamed. You might even feel relief that there's finally a name for what's been going on. And that can be really helpful for folks. It is super important for you to know that borderline personality disorder is super treatable. You can build a life that feels meaningful, manageable, and absolutely positively worth living. I'm Suzette Bray. I've been a licensed marriage and family therapist for 25 years, but for about the last 15 years, I've spent my time with a focus on helping people navigate the challenges of BPD. Today, I'm going to help you understand what this diagnosis means, share the first steps to take, and show you why there is so much hope ahead for you. What is borderline personality disorder, or what we call it for short, BPD? And it's a condition where emotions are really prevalent. They tend to hit hard. These feelings can feel overwhelming and probably last a lot longer than you would like. You might experience intense mood shifts, feel kind of unsure about who you are sometimes or what your values are. You might also have some struggles in your relationships. For example, one minute you might feel completely connected to someone and then suddenly feel kind of disconnected or unsure of their motives or their intentions towards you. Or maybe sometimes it might feel like emotions just come out of nowhere and kick you to the curb. If this sounds familiar, I want you to know that you are not alone. About 1 in 100 people live with BPD. I suspect it's more. And it is one of the most treatable mental health diagnoses. And while it is a mental health diagnosis, it also comes along with some big strengths. And we're going to talk about those later in this video. This diagnosis is absolutely not the end of your story. It's the beginning of understanding yourself and building the life that you want. Let's talk about the steps that I think are going to be helpful to you as you first start to cope with this diagnosis. And step one is I'd like you to learn about borderline personality disorder. But hold on, I want you to do it with caution. I'd like you to understand this diagnosis, but be careful. There are books and websites and people out there that make BPD sound hopeless, that people with BPD are manipulative and untreatable, and that is simply not true. There is so much negative, pejorative, outdated, and just ugly, mean information out there. I want you to take what's helpful. And when you start to get that gut that people with this diagnosis are being judged, I want you to step away. There's no need to pay attention to that. Later, when you learn skills to deal with your emotions, then, go ahead, go into activism, help find these people who are saying all these negative things and help educate them. But in the beginning, I'd really like you to be careful. So in the description, I've given you a beginner's reading list that I think you and your loved ones are going to find super helpful. So step two, I would like you to seek out evidence-based treatment. And that means a treatment that has been researched and found to be effective with the symptoms of borderline personality disorder. You know, one of the things out there is that people think you just get a therapist. And that's not really helpful for a lot of people. You need to find a therapist who really knows what works for what you're coping with. And the most effective evidence based treatment right now that we have for borderline personality disorder is dialectical behavior therapy, or DBT. DBT was specifically created for folks with the symptoms of BPD, and it teaches all kinds of practical tools to calm intense emotions, handle stress, improve relationships. But I also want to tell you that when people come into me, and want to do DBT and they bring their loved ones, or maybe folks who don't even have BPD, but I teach them DBT skills. They say, why didn't I get taught this in middle school health class. This would have been so helpful. And I have to tell you, I feel the same way. If I had learned this stuff when I was a young person, my life would have been a lot easier. And these, so really think of it as kind of a life toolkit. It's kind of about managing those emotions. It's not about changing who you are at all. We do not want emotionless robots out there. The emotional sensitivity that comes with BPD can be a great strength, but sometimes it can feel like you're walking around in the world naked and the world is made of sandpaper and you're getting roughed up and scraped up all over the place. The skills taught in DBT kind of act like this protective layer, a parka, shielding you from the abrasiveness of the world while helping you navigate your emotions and your relationships in a more effective way. Really important that you look at the idea that finding the right therapy is way more important than just getting into therapy. In fact, many people who have come into my practice have been in therapy since they were little children and have found it unhelpful or maybe even have made their situation worse. So, evidence-based treatments. Okay, we've got dialectical behavior therapy or DBT. There is schema therapy. There's transference focused psychotherapy. There's mentalization. DBT is what's most available out there in the United States, but it can be really expensive. So if you can't afford a comprehensive DBT program, and that's a lot, trust me, it's once a week individual, it's once a week group skills training, it's between session phone coaching, your therapist has to attend a consultation team. Um, if you can't do all of that, then the skills are the way to go. And research backs that up. So if you've got a therapist that you can afford or is covered through your health insurance and you can't get DBT covered through your health insurance, then ask your therapist to refer you to a skills training group. If that's not affordable, then there are self-help groups out there. I've dropped some websites out for you into the description to give you more information to be able to find what might be most effective for you. Okay, step 3. Start small and celebrate every win along the way. You do not have to tackle everything at once. This is going to take some real time, but it's worth it, and that time's going to pass anyway. So we might as well spend it doing something that's going to improve our lives, right? So even the DBT skills, if you're in a comprehensive DBT program, it's 6 months to learn all of the skills. I remember just walking into my first training on DBT and being completely overwhelmed. Like, how am I going to learn all this stuff? How am I going to be able to parse it all out? And, what I eventually came to is that I had to approach it kind of like a language immersion class. You walk in, and at first, the teacher is saying all these things and they don't make sense. It's distress tolerance and radical acceptance and mindfulness and interpersonal effectiveness and emotion regulation. It's just like sounds like gibberish, right? Just like if you're in a language immersion class and the teacher's speaking this entirely different language and it just doesn't make sense. But over time, you keep on showing up, and bit by bit, you start to become fluent. It starts to all make sense. It starts to weave together. And you start to know how to use this. You start to think in DBT, maybe even start to dream in DBT. But initially, you want to start small. Try a mindfulness activity like noticing your breath for 10 minutes. Not 10 minutes, 10 seconds. Let's start really small. Or a grounding exercise, or maybe even the classic DBT skill stop. It's one of my favorites. Even tiny steps build momentum. Progress, not perfection, is our goal. Every small win is going to bring you closer and closer and closer to that life you want. 4. Don't believe the manipulation myth. So, one of the most harmful myths about borderline personality disorder is the idea that people with BPD are big manipulators. This is so not true. What happens is when somebody is on fire with emotion, they can act in ways that others see as really extreme. But it is not manipulation. It's an attempt to cope when everything feels unbearable and overwhelming, just trying to get those needs met. If people with BPD were so darn good at manipulation, other people wouldn't feel manipulated. They just go along and do what they want. I am so frustrated by this myth. I want you to know that you are not bad. You are not broken. With the right tools, you can learn to express your needs in ways that feel better for you and for the people you care about. Step 5. Know the strengths of borderline personality disorder. It is so easy to focus on the challenges of BPD, but I want you to really get it embedded in your head that there are great gifts that come along with this. The emotional sensitivity that comes with BPD allows you to be really empathetic, really compassionate. It allows you to deeply connect with others and know when someone is struggling. Creativity is also associated with BPD. It helps you solve problems in unique ways and to be able to create. And being passionate about causes drives you to fight for what matters most. A lot of folks with BPD are activists. Your emotions are part of what makes you you. And with the right tools, they can absolutely positively become one of your greatest strengths. What's one thing about borderline personality disorder that you want to know? Drop it in the comments. Let's start a conversation. It'll help me know what kind of videos you'd like to see. It is so important for you to know you're not alone in this journey and you've already taken your first steps. If you found this video helpful, like, subscribe, all that kind of stuff. It'll let me know to make more videos like this. I really look forward to seeing you next time. Bye.